Welcome to the Ebony Role Players podcast. I'm your host, Edye Evans Hyde, singer, performer, and founder of Ebony Role Players. As a Black theater company in Grand Rapids, Michigan, Ebony Role Players strives to inspire, educate, and engage the cultures of our community. In this podcast, we take a deeper dive into the topics and issues surrounding the stories that we tell. So let's jump right into some meaningful dialogue and celebrate the diverse communities that we share. Hey, welcome everyone. Welcome to the Ebony Role Players podcast. And I am so excited to have our guest, Miss Lisa Knight. Some of you may know her in a plethora of things that she has done in this city. I know her most as a theatrical friend of mine. We have done quite a few things together, Lisa.
Yes, really. We have. Yes, we have.
But we're going to get into some of the things that, other things that you are into and whatever you want to talk about. So what I'm doing is I usually start with a quote that kind of will start our conversation. And before I do that, though, I want to tell everyone who's listening that this will be on our YouTube page in a couple weeks. And we would love for you to subscribe to our YouTube page and listen to the wonderful people that we have interviewed over the past few months. So this, of course, is my most fun thing to do is really talk to my friends. And Lisa is definitely one of them. So Lisa, welcome. And let me get right into this quote, which I think will give us a little bit of lead on where we are going. So this quote was by Harriet Tubman, which I thought was, I love it when we can go way back and find these wonderful quotes from our past, from our leaders of way back when. And I thought this one is great because it really talks about where we are now and who we are as people. Mm-hmm. So the quote was called Dream Big. She says, every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars to change the world. And I thought this was a great quote for you and hopefully a lot of people who will be listening, because so many people, I feel like, don't dream big enough. They're afraid to dream. And Lisa, I have to say, with all of the things that you do right now, you must have been dreaming a lot. And so tell me how that works for you. Tell me how you started dreaming and where you are now.
Oh, wow. When I tell you that quote probably sums up how I live my life and how my life has happened. I mean, I had one of my mentors say to me at one time, do you ever see anything small? And I was like, no, I don't. So, I was one of 5 girls and one boy in our family. And we lived, out in the country. There weren't a lot of people there. On that street, we were the only Black family out there at the time. So my upbringing was a little bit different. Like I dealt with all the stuff in my family, and obviously being a Black family, y'all can see that. Right. But my dad actually fighting during that civil rights piece, right? He was a truck driver. His tractor trailer got blown up down south when he was traveling back up here, working these different jobs, trying to provide for his family, becoming under my uncle, a licensed journeyed plumber, and then becoming the president of the NAACP, right? As a kid, though, you kind of didn't really understand all of the stuff, right? But when I think about all the things that, he did, I realized, because my family says that I'm his twin, right? in so many ways. And I was like, that is such a scary thing. You see the commercials and I'm like, but I'm him. But I've always been a dreamer. Like I would sit in my room and I would have my dolls And I would dream about them being princesses and you know, actually being me. I had horses and I loved horses. And, you know, I would just create these little worlds for myself, right? Because I wasn't really sure who I was. And then one piece that I loved about my entertainment background is that, you know, when all those groups were out, you had Diana Ross and the Supremes and, you know, all the groups that were out. So my mom would have this wig, and when she would leave, I would put this wig on. I brushed the life out of that thing, but the wig brush was my microphone, and my sisters were my background.
Yes. Oh, you were the leader.
Huh?
You were the leader, right?
I was the leader, and I always saw myself as being that person, right? Just being on that stage, the world, you know, being my platform, and being able to, you know, just sing, because I felt like when people performed, when they sung, it had so much power in it, right? And it made you feel a certain way or remember certain things, you know. And when we look at music throughout the ages, you know, there's different music that came during different genres, and they always make you think back to a time and place where something happened, whether it's good, bad, sad, indifferent, whatever it was. You could hear that song and be like, oh yeah, that was it, right? But in those times, that dreaming was all I did, right? And I wasn't really sure who I was, because I didn't have like a position in the line of family, right? You have the first child, you have the last child, you have the middle child, but I was just that one kind of stuck in there. And I always loved doing things different, because that it felt comfortable for me. It felt like the place I needed to be. But I was always the loud child. Like, I was loud, right? All the time. People would say, why you gotta be so loud? Because I want to be heard, right? And I didn't feel like people heard me. And so I would talk louder to make sure I was heard.
Did you hear me?
Because that was all I knew to do, right? And then getting recognition on stage and people being able to see me, it became a space for me to be able to utilize my voice differently, right? And be able to connect with people in a different way. And so as I grew, you know, I always wanted to be this star. I always saw myself on the stage, on the big screen, you know, just doing all of this stuff. And I was just different than my other sisters and brothers. And I was the only one engaged in that area, right? Going to musicals and doing shows and all of this stuff, you know, and just feeling like I didn't fit in, though, right? Because I was the only one in my family doing it. And then the people that I was doing it with, there was nobody that looked like me doing it. At all. I only saw them on TV. And, you know, we watched them on TV when my parents left, because the TV wasn't supposed to be on. So we would turn it on and turn it in between them channels where you could catch stuff. And then you would turn it off just in time where you knew the TV would cool down. So when they came in,
it wasn't hot.
You know, just all of those things. But then I think, you know, as I grew up, obviously in the middle of my life, when I had started, you know, graduated from high school, I didn't go to college right out of high school, because my parents couldn't afford it, right? And didn't really understand the whole college thing. So as I watched friends have, you know, graduation parties and get ready to go off to college, I didn't have that opportunity. Right. And so at 19, I had my first child. And so now I had to become a mother, and I had to take care of this child. But then I also still had my dreams, right? The things that I wanted to do. And I'm going to make it. I'm going to succeed in this. I'm going to overcome this. And then it just kind of became this path that I was on that was leading me away from what I wanted to do. Right. Because I know I have this responsibility, and I'm going to do this. But it was taking me away from what that goal was, the thing that I was seeing off in the distance. And so I still try to do things and you know, ended up getting married and had some more kids, and, you know, wasn't really in it like I wanted to be. Like, I would sing with different groups and do little things here and there, but still not to the level I wanted to, right? But there was also this passion of, you know, the things that I suffered through, you know, physical abuse and verbal abuse and poverty and homelessness and all of these things. people look at you and they have no idea what you've actually gone through.
No.
And then people always, you always see people and you're like, oh, I want to be like this person, or I want to be like this person, but you don't know what they had to do to get there.
Yeah.
Right. And so just going throughout life, still trying to hold on to that peace, that light, that my life had purpose, that there were great things ahead of me, and I didn't know what that looked like. Right. I didn't know what that looked like.
And that's it, Lisa, that's a great point. Okay. So you've just dropped some nuggets on us just telling your story. I think one is, yes, nobody really knows what you are going through. They see you as a success. And I do want to tell our audience what those successes are for you. But we don't know where people come from. And where you and I are like, and probably many other women, and I just want to say this is for National Women's, this is all about women, our next few episodes, but I was the same one. I'm that set person who was kind of different than everyone, and I'm in my room with my hairbrush, with my microphone, and knowing that there was something I wanted, but I wasn't sure what that was. And the only thing I knew was I did see Diana Ross, and I did see all these other Black women performers, Diane Carroll and all these different people. And I guess in my dreams, I thought, oh, wouldn't it be just so cool to be them, to be who they are and what they're doing. And and I had no direction either. And I think what we want to tell our, viewers, people who are watching and trying to find out what they want to be doing, it's not always a specific thing. It's just, and maybe you can tell me this, things that lead from one thing to another. You jump into one thing and it leads to something else.
Yeah.
And that leads to something else. I don't know if that's how it happened for you.
I mean, I think a lot of it is, for me, the music was always the piece that I could always go back to.
Mm-hmm.
It always brought me joy.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew when I opened my mouth, I could see the impact on other people, right? And so it's like, okay, how do I connect where my life is to what I think it's supposed to be? I'm not quite sure, but I feel like it is, right? It's like something in you.
Yes.
And my dad used to always be like, he would bring Harriet Jackson records, and he'd be like, you need to listen to this. You need to sing this song. And I was like,
and he was encouraging though, right?
It was. And and I think he saw it too, but he had no clue on how to cultivate that piece in me, right? You've got singers whose parents manage their careers and they do all of that stuff. I didn't have anybody that did that for me, right? My first talent show, national talent show, was called Miss Talented Teens. And it was 16, and it was in Detroit. And so I got in there, I raised the money to pay for my entrance fee and stuff, and pay for my hotel. And I went, and I think the first couple of nights I stayed with like my cousins. And then I went and did this. Well, I made my dresses for this production, or for this talent show. And I went in there and I was singing Porgy and Bess, Summertime. And when I tell you, I was screaming and wailing up in that piece, and I got second runner up, and I was like, wow, excuse? Listen to everybody in there. I got runner up, right?
Yeah.
And so I went to them because I was angry. I was like, this was my thing. This was my break. And you gave me runner up? What is wrong with you people? And the man said, you don't look 16. And I didn't. Right? I had my auntie shoes on, the little ponytail. My little dress had the back out and had to split up to the high heavens. I mean,
they just didn't know who you were.
They did. I was ahead of my time.
Yeah, you were ahead of your time.
I was ahead of my time. But you know what?
I love the confidence that you even had then. At 16, heck no, I didn't have that kind of confidence. No, I was still sitting with my, hairbrush in my bedroom. And I'm going to talk about this too. What you did for yourself to get you there was a self-reliance thing.
Yeah.
And I think that what people miss sometimes is the work that has to go into what you want to achieve.
Absolutely.
And some people are more mature, like you at 16, knew what you wanted, made your dress, did your
I
thing.
did. And they
But
were cute.
I think that leads me to some of the other things that you're doing too, because the arts was this expression for you and you knew you wanted to be there, but some of this leads to your entrepreneurship. I know that you have run a couple of companies or co-run a couple companies, which is not an easy thing to do, not at all.
But this helped me.
Yes, this helped you.
This helped me.
And I guess that was my point, is that being a performer and being able to present yourself in a way, it is much more than performance on a stage. It is really teaching you some skills to do the things that you are doing now. Your entrepreneurship, you are the second ward commissioner here in Grand Rapids.
Yes.
I don't know, are you the first Black woman
commissioner? I am.
That is what I was thinking.
I am, and, for the second ward.
Those are so important for women to hear, and Black women specifically to hear, that you are the first. You are a leader in so many different ways. You
and
also
it's a scary thing. It's a scary thing, Edye, right? Because the theater background helped me get to and into rooms and at tables and places. Why? Because it gave me confidence.
Yes.
That was because I wasn't getting it from other people, right? I was getting it from being in this space where nobody cared what you looked like, what size you were, you know, that my eyeballs were green, that I wore my hair blonde. I mean, people didn't care about that. Right. It was what happened when you got on stage, right? It gave me the confidence to stand in front of people and own who I was and be okay with my weaknesses, with my flaws, with my shortcomings, with all the stuff, because for a moment I wasn't me. I'm someone else.
Yeah.
Right. And it didn't mean that there was anything wrong with being me. And it took me a while to actually love who I was. And that's when I was pushed out of groups because I didn't fit into what they thought I should be.
Right.
Right. And I used to always try to do that because I thought, oh, it's cool. I want to be with the cool girls, and I want to be with the girls that got flat iron hair and they're wearing these really sharp suits and whatever. I thought that was it for me, but that wasn't right. First of all, I had to get to a place where I actually loved who I was and was okay, because I know that I was fearfully and wonderfully made the exact way that I am right now. And I love every piece of her, every single piece of her. But then starting a business, right? Part of that was wanting, you know, I got all these kids and I want to create a legacy. I want to leave something for them. I want them to, you know, be able to step back and say, yeah, that was my mom. And that was, you know what I mean? And so I started, and I don't know if you remember this, I started a shoe store.
I do, because it was up the street from my house.
It was up the street from your house. And that was my first endeavor into business. And I worked like 3 and 4 jobs just to be able to open that store with my own money.
Yes.
Right. To do it for myself, and just to say that I could do that, because I felt like that was another piece of my life. Right. And then getting into that, and then opening up another business right before the pandemic hit, and then becoming the COO of another business and helping to really push that business to another level, right? And bring all that creativity, all that the way that I think outside of the box, dreaming big and not seeing anything small.
Yes.
Those are the things that propelled me. And then even into this position, you know, it had been spoken over me. People had spoken into my life multiple times. Said, Lisa, this is the next direction for you. This is what you need to do. But even the last, let's say, 10 years coming up to right now, I still questioned some of that, because people are like, oh my gosh, you know, you're such a powerful speaker and you're so inspiring. You're so this, that, and the other. And I'm going, me? Like, I met with a friend for breakfast the other day, and somebody knew that we've been, you know, communicating and sitting down and talking with each other. And he said, you are such a powerful woman. he was like, people would kill to be in your position. And I'm like, huh?
Yeah. Right. Right.
Me? And he's like, oh, come on. You got to know that. But there are times when we still, and I have to be careful, we compare ourselves to what we think
Yes.
success is, because we see all of this stuff around us that's constantly pressuring us to feel like we have to be this way. Yes. And all we have to be is us.
Yes.
Right.
But as women, it takes time for us to, and I still do the same thing, Lisa. I personally do. Like, really? Is this what I'm going to be doing? I remember the first musical I got into, someone said, oh, Edye, you sing jazz, you should do a musical. And I'm like, no, one, I can't dance. I've never been in a show. And I went and auditioned, and it was Ain't Misbehaving, and I got into it. And even then I thought it was a fluke. I thought it was, oh, everybody's just giving me a pass to do this show. And I didn't do another show for 4 years. And plus I was having kids too. But even to this day, when I think about doing something I really want to do, something overwhelms me in 2 ways. One is, oh, am I thinking too big? Can I really do this? And then 2 is, well, if I don't try to do it, I'll never know. So both of those things happen to me. And I look at you, Lisa, as like, I look at you sometimes and go, how the heck are you doing all of these things and being successful with all of this? Because for me right now, if I can do 2 things and be successful, I'd be very, very happy. But you are a mover and a shaker. And I think, like I said, the quote is, you think you dream big. I thought I dreamed big. You really dream big. And that's what I really love about you.
I love you for that. That is, it's funny, because that's just how my mind works, and it's who I am. And I dream all the time. I do. It's crazy. I tell people, they're like, how do you sleep? I went to the doctor recently, and she's like, so how do you sleep? And I was like, I guess I sleep okay. I don't know. And she said, well, tell me about that. Yeah. And I said, well, I'll sleep hard for like a certain amount of time, and then my brain wakes up and she's talking. And she's saying, you need to do this. And what if you could do this? And how about that? And I used to keep a journal in my bed and a tape recorder.
Yes.
So I did a whole CD based off of songs I got in my dreams.
Yes. 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 And that's, I think I need that, because I do the same thing. I think I sleep really hard for a little bit of time, and then I wake up and I go, oh, I got to do this, and I got to do this. And you might be mentally healthy doing it. I am not mentally healthy doing it. So I have to,
But my brain is like, Lisa, this. And it's like, I'll see, like I saw a play one time and I wrote it in 2 weeks.
Oh, wow. Wow.
The set, I wrote a couple of the songs. I helped build the set. I mean, entrances, exits, lighting, everything in 2 weeks. And I never, ever, ever have done that before.
Wow.
Ever. Wow. It's that's some strange stuff.
Well, but you have directed a show now. 2 shows? No, just the one, right?
Well, the Black, Bold, and Beautiful,
Black, Bold,
Civic Theater.
Yeah,
I've done a number of plays for my church productions.
Yeah. Okay.
That were pretty much they're on the same level. It just wasn't at the theater, right?
Right.
I've directed some concert series, but I see productions and things in my head all the time. Mm-hmm. And it's like, how do I do it? So then I have people that are like, hey, can you come help us do this? Put this thing together. This is the idea I have. Can you do? And they'll just say a piece, and that's all I need. Sometimes it's just a piece, and then I can see this whole thing. But it's like, okay, well, what is your budget though? Because I don't know if your budget can match up to what I'm dreaming.
Right, and that's always a huge thing as well.
Absolutely.
And, there's not a lot of Black women in town that they may be in churches. Like you said, you do a lot of stuff in church, but I always have this feeling that there's so much talent within that church space, but they don't come out and do things in the public, like doing things for Circle or Civic or, you know, even us, Ebony Real Players, because I don't know if they don't know it, they don't feel comfortable with it. I don't know what it is, but it's one of those things that I think in Grand Rapids specifically needs more talent like that. And like, again, what I admire with you is that you really are doing, you've done things at your church, very dedicated to that, but you've taken it out into a community that I think is really hungry for that kind of that kind of work.
Absolutely. And there is so much talent in this community. And I think we as a church have done a disservice to people because we act like that is the only place that their gift is used. And then it's also the communication piece, right? People knowing what's out there. Yes. And so I've tried to always be a person who's putting information out there for people, or connecting this person, or doing this and doing that, and helping people see that that doesn't change your faith at all. No. Right? No. It's a skill set that you have in yourself that could be used to change someone's life. Yes. I'm telling you, when I get on the stage and I hear the responses from people, and I remember traveling and a woman coming up to me literally crying because of a show that I was in, and saying how much it touched her and really made her think and reflect, right? I don't like doing just silly stuff. You know what I mean? I like doing stuff that has meaning and that's impactful to people's lives, because that's what I believe I'm called to do, is impact people's lives, right? Be it, stories about what I've gone through to get where I'm at, or what the future looks like, because I have dreams about what the future looks like, and I don't know, and it's sometimes really scary. Yes. To move into that, right? So when started running this, doing this commissioner, this race, I had a dream of literally, I was standing on the outside of this bubble, and my feet were touching it and my nose was touching it. And I knew that I was supposed to go inside, but I had a fear that I was going to leave some people that I would not be able to be connected to, or, wouldn't be in that space anymore. And when it's time for us to move into different spaces, everybody that's around you is not meant to go into that space with you. Right. You have to know that you're called to that space. And even though it's scary and it's frightening because you're not sure about it, right, that's probably the best thing. And it's probably actually what you need to do. Because if you're scared of it, that's what you need to be going for, because you have no control over it. Yes. Yes. Right. And you learn so much. You learn, when I finally decided that theater was what I wanted to do, and it's the same thing, theater for a purpose, it was always frightening to me. Everyone says, "Oh, Edye, you're so calm and you know what you're doing." I'm like, no, I don't. And it's very scary, but I learn every time. And I know when I get to work with people like you, Lisa, I mean, I'm telling everyone this story. Lisa and I have, we've known each other kind of in years. Yeah. But kind of in a separate space. You were not in the same space I was in. And I think the first time we got to really be in a space together was we did a show out in Caledonia. Yes. Yes. Was it Raisin in the Sun? No, it was Sojourner. It was Sojourner Truth. That was I think that was our first time really working together, if I remember right. And I learned, I felt like there was a camaraderie that happened there, that finally we got into each other's space in some form. We had such a good time on that. And we really connected. And of course you were the lead, and it was amazing. And she slides that in. Huh? I said she slides that in. Yeah, it was amazing. So then we ended up doing, we've sung together a couple times, some gigs I have booked with me, you, and Scott Bell, which I swear we still need to put a group together because we sound so good together. We did. That was amazing. And then we did Intimate Apparel, which I think was before that. And your character coming from a church background, I would almost think would be afraid for you. You might have been apprehensive in doing it, but there was something in you.
She played basically a prostitute in when was that, 1930s?
I don't know. They were wearing corsets and those little
Yeah.
boopers.
It was either 1920s, 1930s, something like that. And she got to sing in it a little bit because she had a little piano by her. And oh my gosh,
Funny.
we had
That's
so much fun
I
in
love
that
that
show. Probably one of my favorites.
Yeah, that was it. That definitely was. And then just, well, but you know, that when we first met, you were at GRCC. And I told, it's funny, y'all, I'm gonna tell y'all this story because I told Edie this I think it was last year I told her this. And I always looked up to her because people always talked about Edie. And I was like, who is Edie? And this is when I started working at GRCC. And then I heard her sing and I was like, I can sing like her. And then it was, but that still was in that, for me, that transition time of trying to figure out who I was and find my voice, right?
Yes.
Finding my voice. And I think that's the thing, like with me now being the executive director of Girls Choral Academy. And our tagline is giving girls a voice.
Yes.
Right? If we can help them find their voice, if we can help each other find your voice. And that doesn't mean it's in theater. That doesn't mean it's in music. It can be wherever. My voice, when people ask me, they're like, how do you do all this stuff? And I said, I have a gift to do this because if I didn't, I couldn't.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And it doesn't, when I tell people about it, people get anxiety when I start telling them what, it might look like for a week in my life.
Yeah.
And they're like, I that really scares me. And I said to them, that's okay, because that's not what you were created to do. Right. And what you were created to do is important, and it has its place as well.
Yeah.
We all have our place. And if we're okay with moving into that and just doing what we're supposed to do, man alive, the things that we could accomplish. Yeah. But I always find myself in the space of wanting to make sure that I empower people and help them understand that there is greatness in you, there's purpose in you, and it may not look like, it may look like hell in front of your face right now. That don't mean nothing.
No, it doesn't.
Because I've seen that.
And people don't realize that they will evolve.
Right.
They will evolve. And I know you and I have even traveled out of the country to share our gift. And as scary as that was for me to go, I think you went to Japan, right?
I was in Japan, yeah.
Yep, and I went to China. And oh my gosh, Japan, I almost imagined me going to one day. Never thought I'd go to communist China. Never in a million years. But I met so many wonderful people there, and I got to perform what I do. I got to do what I do there, and they appreciated it.
Right.
And then I came back and I was a changed person from that experience, just a totally changed person. So no matter where you are at a particular time, you do evolve when you are given more opportunities to explore more parts of the world. And I think you, as a woman, as a Black woman, having those experiences does really give you so much power within yourself to make a difference for other people.
It helped me, one, to be humble. Because I when I went outside of the country to see how other people lived and their culture and why they did things, it humbled me because, we always have this mindset of what we think others are, how they look, how they live, what they do, because we're conditioned by certain things to believe a certain thing until you get into the thing.
Yes.
And when I tell you, I admired the tenacity and the dedication and just the humility. Right. And then step back and looked at my life and I was like, you're lazy. You're entitled. You need to get it together. And
you don't even know that until you go somewhere else. When I was when I was in China, they'd look at me and think that, one, I had money, so they were always trying to sell me something. But I was kind of like in a space of entitlement almost, you know, which I don't think that we feel like we have here, because I think our country does not give us that kind of feeling of, there's always an insecurity. We always, as Black women, always have this insecurity. And then I leave the country, and everyone's like, oh, you're a jazz singer. We love Sarah Vaughan and we love Ella Fitzgerald. And I'm like, here in China? What? It's such a great experience. Lisa, I could talk to you for probably about 2 hours.
We could talk forever.
Yes. And I want everything. I want to know, tell people a little bit about, I have so many things here that you do. You're the second ward commissioner. You've had 9 kids.
I had 9. I have another older adopted daughter and a stepdaughter. So it's actually 11. But 9 sits better in people's minds.
Yes, 9. We can't even phantom that even. You're an amazing cook, because I've seen your food. Your food. An entrepreneur. What do I have here? City commissioner. You're a performing artist.
Yes. Both writer and director.
And director now. Yes. And now you're the executive director of the Girls Choral Academy. Yes. And you are doing all of this. And I'm just going to say you are our Superwoman of the Month. I'm making that announcement right now. You are our Superwoman of the Month, because half this stuff I couldn't do. I'm just hanging with the theater company and
it's so funny
and doing my little singing, and that is it.
Listen, but your stuff is important, and I have my consulting business, so I do that, and my voiceovers. That literally why I was late, because I was trying to finish up a voiceover. But those are all. When I leave this earth, I want to make sure that I've used every talent that has been allotted to me. Yes. And whatever I can do to help others get to that space, because I had people that helped me. Now, because you were one of my biggest mentors, because I was like, she's going to China. If she can go, I can go.
You can go. Absolutely. And that is what if I leave anything, like when I go, it's the same thing, that people have seen, that there are things that you can do. You can dream big.
Yes.
And maybe it won't be as big as you want it to be, but you got to start dreaming big first to see where it will actually go.
That's it right there. And when a people lose the ability to dream, then they don't have anything, right? And I said this all the time when I was doing my work at the Urban League, is our job is to give people hope and them having the ability to dream, and working with youth and doing youth development and stuff like that, is that our kids, I think, have forgotten that it's not the fake stuff that they see out there, right? But there are things that are there for you and that are waiting for you to actually step into. I don't know if you believe that or not, but there are things that were created that are waiting for us to get into place, to step into, to be activated, right? And again, don't let fear keep you from your purpose. Dream and dream big. And if no one else can see it with you, okay, sucks to be them. Keep it moving. Right. You know what I mean? And that's what I had to get to that spot, because people didn't dream like me. And I realized that. And then it was like, okay, but this is obviously what I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah. So I'm just going to do it. Right. And if it doesn't turn out right the first time, okay, try it again.
And don't be afraid of failure. Oh my gosh. People only see you when you're doing well. They do not know the failures that you've had. And I have one quick story, and I'm going to let you go because I don't want to keep you too long. But I did a show. I auditioned for a show once, and I was doing another show, went to audition for the show in the middle, and it was early in the morning. I was tired as heck. And I got in there, and a girl came in who looked at me and said, oh, well, we already know who's getting this part. Because she was insecure, and I understood that. And I said, I don't know that I'm going to get this part because I have failed. I have auditioned for things and not got a part.
Yeah.
But they don't see that because you only are successful when you're being seen on the stage.
Yeah.
Right. And unfortunately, I really wanted to tell her, what I had gone through previously. But then I couldn't because I did get the part. It was really embarrassing. I really did get the part. And it was, so she was right. But the thing is, unless you go, you don't know what you can do.
Well, these are the life lessons that we forget, right? When you go and interview for a job, you are in a pool of X amount of people. Most times you don't know who those people are. Now, back in the day, you used to, there's all of y'all sitting in the waiting room waiting to get called in, right? And so I had created this program one time called 16 Bars. Okay. And I was using it to teach young people about employment and about interviewing for jobs. And I used how we do auditions in theater. You have 16 bars to show them that you are the best thing that could ever happen to them. What are you going to bring in that door when they say go? Right?
Yeah.
Are you going to say, well, wait, hold on, start over. I don't want to, okay, let's think. I'm not ready for that. What are you going to do?
Yes.
Right? Because that's all you have. And there's times that I have walked in and done auditions and I know I blew a hole through that audition and didn't get it. And then it was like, okay, well, obviously there's something else going on that I don't know anything about. Yes. So, okay. And it was a lesson. And stomach sunk. Yeah. Had the little thing going on, the little butterflies, whatever. But then I talked myself out of it and said, there's probably another role that you should be doing that you should, you know what I mean?
Right.
You didn't get that because you really should be doing this.
Right.
Right. And so I didn't let that stop me, from going forward and growing. And so if I leave anything with people is 16 bars.
Yes. That's amazing.
To dream it and do it.
That is amazing. And I should have you come and do a workshop for us talking about those 16 bars because it really is important. 16 bars of the best part, a song, your best part of it, 16 bars, and you go and do it. Now, are you going to get the part? You don't know because there's other things involved, but you go do your best in your 16 bars. That is a wonderful nugget, Miss Lisa. Yay. I love that a lot. I'm going to end with you. Do you have, I don't know what you just said, I feel like ending with, because that is your 16 bars is it.
That it is it. And if we think, grab a hold of that and those that might be listening, to this podcast, I hope you really take that and think about it, honestly, because our life is an audition, everything that you do, right? And it's an opportunity for you to change something, shift something, do something different. You have those 16 bars. What are you going to do in that time to make a difference?
Right. And that's in life.
Yes. Yes.
I love it. Thank you so much. I just want to tell everyone how much I appreciate this woman. She is everything. If you want to follow her, just go on. I'm sure she's got Facebook and everything else. Go see the Girls Choral Academy. Please. When they are doing things, and support your second ward commissioner. And Lisa, I look forward to performing with you soon in some form or fashion.
Yeah.
Thank you for
happen, sis.
It will. Before I can't walk and do anything anymore. You got to do.
I'll just have to drag you.
Yeah. Okay. We got to do one more gig together somewhere.
Absolutely. All right. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for inviting me. This is wonderful. I appreciate this.
Love you much. And
love you, sis.
We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Ebony Road Players podcast. Creating theater with a purpose is our mission, and that is not possible without people like you. We appreciate you joining us for this podcast and for being a part of our diverse community. To view the video version of this episode and gain access to exclusive Ebony Road Players content and perks, join our community on Patreon at patreon.com/Ebony Road Players. In the words of Zora Neale Hurston, quote, "There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you," unquote. If you have a story to share, we'd love to hear from you. Contact us on Facebook, Instagram, or our website, ebonyroad.org. And we look forward to continuing the conversation next time on the Ebony Road Players podcast.